Says the man who's actively texting and not
right.
I was trying to put the sticker of that emoji on Tyler's face and then send it to him later. But obviously, I can't do that. For those watching, this is the sticker.
Nick hates me a lot.
Yeah, I do.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Chef Tyler's Creation Kitchen. Today we'll be making brudet, or fish stew. Now we've done brudet before on the channel, and so I'm going to go over a different way of making it. Brudet is another one of those Croatian meals in which there are like 101 different ways of making it, and every family has their own way. The video that we did a couple years ago is the way my mom made it while we were growing up, but today I'm going to do something a little bit different, and I'm going to explain why we're doing it differently as well. This is going to make it a little bit like elevated, maybe closer to something you could find at a fancier restaurant. The other way was like the at-home, original, quick and dirty, just get something out onto the table kind of way. Which of course is very good, and that's where most of like these amazing dishes come from. But I want to do something a little bit different. So for the brudet, of course, we're going to need fish. The type of fish you use really does not matter. And in fact, you should be using multiple kinds of fish. The history of this dish is that it originated with the fishermen, and when they sold all they could, they take whatever left over and go home and make brudet from it. So you're supposed to have different kinds. I only have two kinds today. I've got brancin and orada, just because I went to the fishmonger today and she didn't really have like a whole wide selection. But the idea is that you have multiple kinds. If you can get like 4 fish and they're all different, that's the best way to do it.
What are the recommended fish if you have the option?
There really isn't a recommended fish. I would say like the recommended fish is probably what you want or what's available to you. Because...
So I don't know anything about fish.
Okay.
So if I go into a fishmonger, what am I looking for?
Whole fish, definitely want a whole fish. And then I would just use what they have as a guide as to what to buy. As in what they have is what you should buy. Because if you want to stay true to the origins of the dish, you're not really picking the fish, you're letting someone else kind of pick your fish. Because the fishermen weren't, trying to save some fish back to make the brudet, they just used what didn't sell. So if you go to the fishmonger and then you see what he has, now you're at the liberty of what they have, and then you're kind of recreating the whole like original story of where brudet comes from that way. Someone else is deciding the fish you make it from. I know that's not an answer, but like that is the best answer I can give. Like you're not supposed to use specific fish for brudet. You're supposed to just use whatever is available to you. So if you go to the fishmonger and they have whole fish, that's the fish you're going to use. Typically we use whitefish just because that's what's available in the Adriatic. You could use like a skusha, which is what's the English word for that? Mackerel, which is a fattier fish. You can use rockfish. Like I said, you can use squid or cuttlefish, but if you're going to do that, I would just stick to using only squid and cuttlefish, not having some extra fish in there. That's just historical. I really don't think there's a reason for that. I do call this fish stew, but it is going to be like soupier than a stew, so it'll be more similar to like a varivo, which we've also done on the channel before, because you don't want like a super thick sauce like you would with a vinsky goulash or a beefsky goulash. You want something a little thinner, and that's what we're going to make. So you can see here I have all these ingredients. The first step is super simple. We're just going to make a fish stock. And that's why you need whole fish, because you want the bones in order to make the fish stock. Everything else here I have is just aromatics for the stock, plus the rice, because we're going to serve it with rice. The last video I served it with potato, and that's the way my mom did it growing up, but we're subbing rice because Kaylin can't eat potato. Of course, you can use potato and rice. I think rice is just a good idea because when you make fish soup in Croatia, you always use rice, so I think this works a bit better. So I moved these fish over there, so I have a whole cutting board for this fish, and we're just gonna go and fillet. Really, really easy to do. And if you want, you could probably ask your fishmonger to fillet it for you, but if you want to do it at home, you start at the head here, and you take off, pull the fin up, and you make a incision towards the head from the belly. That's actually supposed to cut through, so this knife needs sharpening. And once you're through, you're going to take your knife and put it in through the back, right? Back on here. We're just gonna follow, I'm gonna do it this way because follow the fins. Just a shallow cut for now to get through the skin, right? And once it opens a little bit, we'll just make nice shallow cuts along the backbone to take the flesh off of the bone. And here we have our fillet. And then basically what you do is you just flip it around and do the same thing on the other side. And this side usually goes a little bit easier. Number 2. Now there is a whole lot of meat still left on here, so what you can do is take a spoon and just scrape it right off, okay? And then you can save this and use these in fish fritters, which we will be doing a video on shortly, probably in like the next 2 months. Or you could just leave the meat on the bone and use that to flavor your stock. I'm gonna go ahead and fillet the rest of these fish, and then I'll be back once that is done. So I've gone ahead and filleted the fish. Now we're over here at the stove so we can make our stock. This is super simple. We need our fish bones, all of them, and we're just going to 1, 2, 3 for however many fish that you have. You could break them up if you'd like, but it's really not that big a deal. Into the fish stock, we have our spring onion, carrot, lemon peel, clove of garlic, parsley, some black pepper. We're using whole black pepper, bay leaf. I'm gonna use 1, let's say 2 leaves, Dalmatian herbs. Now normally I would put this into a coffee filter, but since all this will be strained later, we don't have to worry about that. I don't think I mentioned that this will be strained. It's going to be strained. And just a splash of white wine for some flavor.
2 shots of vodka.
Splash. After this, we'll just cover with water. And we're going to just cover the fish with water. We don't want too much. That looks about right.
I noticed that this is quite different from the last one that we did. We were using tomato in the last one.
Yes, there was tomato in the last one. That was a Brudet not cerveno because it has tomato which makes it red. We're not using tomato mainly because it's not tomato season, but also a different way to show that Brudet can be made without it. This is Brudet not Bijelo, which means it's going to be white. And maybe that's how they do it down in southern Dalmatia. I know in their Buzata they don't use tomato, so perhaps they don't use it in their Brudet as well. I don't know, I'm not southern Dalmatian. It's just another way of doing it. You can add tomato if you'd like. That's the point. It's like, it's whatever you want it to be, right?
It smells delicious.
I also added in some salt, so we're gonna bring this up to a boil, and once it's there, we'll turn down the heat and let it simmer for 45 minutes. So see you in a bit. After 45 minutes, we're gonna go and strain everything out of the pot. I then cleaned the pot, and now we're going to return the stock to our cooking vessel. So in here is our fish stock, so we're just going to right back into the pot. Heat on, and now we'll add our rice. So I'm just gonna actually use all of the rice because there's not that much left. This is about 1 to 2 cups. The amount of rice you use doesn't really matter. Just know how long it cooks for. This cooks for about 20 minutes. The fish now poaches for about 5 to 6 minutes, so in 15 minutes we'll come back and we'll add the fish to poach. And about 5 minutes from when the rice should be done, we'll add in the fish to let it poach. And after it has poached, it is time to serve. It was already full, that was pretty great. Some of the rice and the fish right in here. Let's get some of the soup, the broth as well. And here we have our Brudet. Let's go ahead and give a taste. Get some of the fish with the rice as well. It's a very different flavor to the other one because it's poached. So it's a lot like, it's a gentler type of cooking. So the fish flates a lot more easily, and it's definitely not overcooked. The rice is done to perfection. This adds a little bit of some thickening to the soup too. Because it's not like an actual stew where the sauce is really thick, it's a little lighter. It works so much better with fish, because fish is generally lighter as well. I love the way that this turned out, and I'm really, really happy about it. So you should go ahead and make some Brudet on your own. And now you have 2 ways of making Brudet. And if you stick around, we'll come up with 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe we'll even make 101 ways to make Brudet. Who cares about 101 Dalmatians? It's 101 Brudets. So this was Brudet na Bijelo. If you liked what you saw, please hit like and subscribe. And as always, don't let it